Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Jenifer Jenkins. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is going to be about marriage, and it's going to be about my marriage, obviously, because that's the only marriage that I really have any experience with, right? But the reason I decided to make this video is because sometimes I will put up a post on Instagram and it'll be a picture of my husband or a video of my husband or maybe a picture of both of us. Anyway, usually I will caption it with like a novel about just how grateful I am for my husband or how much I just love him or how I feel like he just hung the moon because he did. And whenever I make a post like that, I usually get a lot of comments just asking me to make a video on, the keys to a successful marriage or how we make our marriage work. And I've always hesitated making a video like that for several reasons. But then my mom came to visit and she was here for a couple of weeks. She was here from the 1st to the 15th and today's the 16th. So she just left yesterday. It always makes me so sad when my mom leaves. It's just really emotional whenever you have family members come to visit and then they have to leave. But a couple days ago, she had suggested the same thing. She's like, Jenny, you should make a video on how you and Rich make your marriage work. And I think it's because of a couple reasons. Well, I know it's because of a couple reasons because she shared them with me. But she said that she just loves the way that my husband and I communicate, and she loves the way that we parent. And I think more than anything, she loves the fact that I'm her daughter and that I seem to be in a happy marriage. What mom doesn't want that for their daughter? So I just decided, you know what, I am going to make this video. I'm just going to jot down a lot of the reasons that I think are really fundamental to our marriage and why I think it works so well. Not to say that, obviously all marriages are different and what works for one marriage may not work for another marriage. I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband's a sole provider. That in and of itself plays a big role in the way that we do things here in our home. So, but anyway, so I just decided, yeah, you know what, I'm going to make that video. So that's what this video is going to be about. So let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so before I get started, I just wanted to say that marriage is not easy. Marriage takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of sacrifice, a lot of compromise. It has ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, good seasons, bad seasons. And the reason I'm saying this is because I don't want you to think that I'm sitting here going, yeah, my marriage is so great and it's always been this way, because that could not be further from the truth. We have had bad seasons. One season that I'm thinking of for sure is we had a bad season in our marriage that lasted about 2 or 3 years. And I think that's a little bit more than a season, right? But, and that's like a whole video really. I don't even know if I want to share it right now. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and share it because it's kind of important, and it has to do with our marriage. But my son is 13, and when he was 3, he was diagnosed with autism. And when they say that, if you have a child with special needs, it really takes a toll on a marriage, there's so much truth to that. And it's sad that there is, but there is a lot of truth to that, because when you have a child with special needs, you just don't know where to turn for help, for answers. And so for those 2 or 3 years, I felt like my husband and I could not agree or see eye to eye on anything. The big issues, especially when it came to my son Cross, it was like, how do we move forward? Do we put him in therapy? Do we give him this medication? Do we try this diet? Do we visit these doctors? It was just so much, and we were just flying blind, and it was so difficult. It actually makes me emotional, just thinking about that time. But we were committed to each other. We were committed to our children, and we stuck it out. I'm not saying that you should always stick it out. Because some couples and some marriages are just toxic. I've been around very toxic marriages, and I feel like some some people just should not be together. But that wasn't the case with us. We were just dealing with a very, very difficult situation. But before I move on, I also want to say that I do not look down upon anybody who's gone through a divorce or who has, been through several marriages, because all that means to me is that they had high hopes. Anytime we start out a relationship or start out a marriage, we have high hopes. We don't think it's going to end in separation. We don't think it's going to end, in divorce. I've known couples that were married for 30 years that ended in divorce. They had high hopes and they tried to stick it out and they just couldn't in the end, But I'm saying all this because I don't want you to think that I'm sitting here going, yeah, my marriage is so great and it's always been this way, because that's not reality. I doubt for anybody's marriage. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of compromise and just commitment to get to where I feel like we are now. We've been married almost 18 years. Before that, we were together for 6 years before we even got married. So we've put in the work, and it's finally paid off, because I feel genuinely like I'm in a very, very happy, healthy marriage. So let's jump in and let me share with you the bullet points of how we make our marriage work. Okay, so these bullet points are in no particular order. I feel like they're all important, and so I'm just going to start wherever. So one of the first ways that I feel like my husband and I really make our marriage work is that we know our roles and we really, really stick to them. For instance, my husband is the leader of this family. And I have no problem allowing him to lead. That's not to say that I don't have a lot of input. Obviously, I have tons of input. And if you asked him, he might even say that I always make the final decision, but it's definitely not true. At the end of the day, my husband is so brilliant. He's so logical. He really thinks things through. And in the end, he is the one who usually makes the final decision. And I'm completely okay with that because I trust my husband very much. He's also the breadwinner, he's the provider. He's the one who takes on all the stresses of our financial, stability. He decides on our big purchases, like our home and our cars and, the car we just bought our daughter. Those decisions usually come down to him because he knows our finances best. He is also who we, meaning me and my children, look to for just security, safety. He's a wonderful husband. He's a phenomenal dad. Now my kids look to me, obviously, for security and safety also, but at the end of the day, it's my husband who offers the most safety and security, Now, my role in this family is that I'm the homemaker. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I have been ever since my children were born. So I do all the cleaning, I do all the cooking, I do all the laundry, I do the grocery shopping. I take my kids to get their school clothes. I take them to get their school supplies. I volunteer at their school, especially whenever they were in elementary. Not so much now, because now one's in middle school and the other one's in high school. But I keep this house in a clean and orderly fashion. If something goes missing, everybody knows to come to me because I'm going to know exactly where it is, right? And I'm the nurturer and I'm the caregiver. I'm the one who gets my kids up in the morning, gets their breakfast, packs their lunches, does all that stuff. My husband and I, we don't really share our roles. Occasionally we'll help each other out. Like if I can help him in some way, then I will. And if I need his help, like, if we're having company over and I need help because I still have a lot of laundry to put away or something like that. But my husband almost never, ever, ever does laundry. It is very, very rare, but he will help if I'm like, can you just help me with this load or whatever? And so we have our roles and we really stick to them. So there's no question of who should be doing what. And I feel like it really makes our home operate peacefully, without any arguments over what are you going to do or what, look what I'm doing. What about you? A good example is that we just went out of town and we all know that I do all the packing. I make sure we have all the essentials. If we're taking food, I pack all the food. If we are, we need all of our electronics, all of our cords, all of our whatever medicine, whatever we need to take with us, I pack it up. He loads it in the car. he doesn't help me pack. I don't help him load. It's just, we do our thing and we do it to the best of our ability. And then it makes everything so much easier. There's no, like I said, there's no arguments on who's going to do what. So, okay. The next bullet point that I have here is that my husband and I communicate really, really well. We don't bottle things in. I don't let things fester. I've never, ever been that type of person. The second something bothers me or irritates me or I feel like needs to be addressed, I address it. And so does he. And, I feel like there are a lot of couples that are afraid to address things because they're afraid it's going to start a fight. And a lot of times it does start a fight because usually the things that we want to address is how the other person is not doing things the way that we would like. Obviously that's going to put anybody on the defense and it might cause an argument. But the arguments, I think, are necessary. I think that a lot of people think that fights are destructive and silence equals peace or something. But peace it's not an authentic peace, because all it does, if you're not addressing those things, you're just going to, one person is going to think that the marriage is going fine, while the other one is just bottling up all this resentment because they're afraid to have that conversation, so all you're going to have is all these unresolved issues. So in essence, nothing gets solved. And like I said, one person ends up happy and one person ends up upset all the time. So my husband and I address everything, which is probably why, we got all of our fighting, out of the way in the first 10 years or something like that. I don't know if it was 10 years, but we did go through a lot of arguments because no two people are alike, obviously, and we're going to get irritated by certain things. But I think that communication is key for any relationship, whether it be a marriage or with your children or with your coworkers or whatever. So that is something that we do here. We communicate often. We do not let things fester. We do not bottle things up. We address them and then we try to move on. That's not to say that we don't have the same arguments sometimes day after day, week after week, sometimes for years. I don't know about for years. The only reason I said that is because this keeps popping in my mind, that it used to irritate me. It still does. That I do all the laundry and my husband will just take off all of his clothes and they're always inside out. And I get so frustrated because I'm like, you can't just, take them off this way. So I feel like it gives me more work whenever I'm doing the laundry. And he goes through periods where he does it and then all of a sudden he gets lazy or something and he stops doing it. And then I remember there was this one time I just started hanging up all of his stuff inside out. And it didn't even faze him. He didn't even mention it to me. He didn't say anything. And I'm like, but it still I don't want to hang stuff up inside out. That just seemed so silly. So that was just something that we just kept having to go over. Why can't you do that? So that is so insignificant, but yeah, address things as they come up so they know where you stand and you know where you stand and you know where they stand. So, okay. So another thing that I feel like really makes our marriage work is that we both have a mutual respect for each other. We respect each other's ideas, each other's thoughts, each other's feelings. And I think that's so important. As a matter of fact, I think that respect is definitely, I know for sure it's my husband's love language. I know that there's this book that's here are the 5 love languages. And just because there's a book written about only 5 doesn't mean there's only 5. So my husband's love language is definitely respect. When I show him respect, he feels very loved by me. And I know because there was a time when we first started dating and we were really young, so bear with me. I was only 24 or 24 whenever I met him. And I guess I was kind of used to getting my way. I was really headstrong and opinionated and stuff like that back then. I still am, some of those things, but anyway, there were times where my husband and I would have a disagreement about something and I might roll my eyes or I would talk to him with a really bad tone of voice and stuff. And my husband would literally be like, who do you think you are? Who do you think I am? You think I'm just going to allow you to speak to me like that? And my husband's very calm natured. He never reacts with hostility or anything like that. He's not like some firecracker or just somebody waiting to explode at all. He's very, very calm, very logical. He's like a voice of reason, you know. I think a little bit has to do with the fact that he's an only child, and I have sisters who I fought with, you know, my whole, you know, childhood and stuff like that. And so I definitely notice the difference, especially in the beginning, with how we argued. But I loved that about him. I loved that he kind of demanded respect from me. And, you know, it's not like he was demanding respect even though he was being a jerk. You know, it wasn't anything like that. It was like, I don't talk to you like that. I don't, you know, treat you like that or roll my eyes or whatever. And he's like, so why do you think I should, you know, put up with it? And he was right, you know? And so it took years. It took years for me to stop being that way, you know, and sometimes occasionally I still do. Occasionally I still roll my eyes and stuff. But and that's not to say that we don't argue or that he doesn't raise his voice or that I don't raise my voice. We have had some knockdown, drag out fights, you know, where we're both yelling and we're both screaming. But for the most part, my husband is just very calm natured. Like I said, he's just very logical. He doesn't try to hit below the belt. I don't hit below the belt either. We don't name call or anything like that. But sometimes I could just have an attitude that he just does not like. And when I don't have that attitude, we have the best relationship ever. It's when I go around with the attitude, if I'm like, I don't know, PMSing or something like that, and you know, my hormones are getting the best of me and I'm just in a bad mood or something like that, he's just like, no, that's not fair to me. Why should I have to put up with that, you know? So yeah, definitely respect. He's always been so much better at it than I have, but I'm definitely very respectful to him. I feel like I'm making myself look bad, but no, I'm very respectful to my husband, but I do have a little chip on my shoulder sometimes. Okay, the next bullet point is that we laugh together and we are very playful with each other. And, you know, I am more of a jokester. You know, my husband's not a jokester. My husband's more of a serious, not serious, because he has a really, really good sense of humor. And I feel like when you say somebody's really serious, they seem boring, but he's not boring at all. But we share such a similar sense of humor that we could literally be like across the room from each other and we could see something or hear something. And if we dare even make eye contact, we will go into like fits of laughter to where we can't control it, you know? We have done that on so many occasions and I just love that. That's one of my favorite things about my husband and I. We have very, very similar sense of humor and we're playful. We flirt a lot with each other. It's funny because my daughter doesn't really like it that much. I mean, it's not inappropriate, you know, flirting or anything like that. But, you know, whenever you see your mom and dad like hugging or kissing or something, you're like, ew, don't do that, you know. My daughter does that sometimes. But we always tell her, you know, you're gonna appreciate this one day. You're gonna appreciate that you got to see your parents, you know, being affectionate with each other and stuff like that. Because some kids never see their parents being affectionate with each other, you know, but I get it. She's only 16, you know, so she's like, ew, stop doing that. But anyway, so that's just another one. We both have a really good sense of humor and we really like to laugh together. Okay, this is one of those bullet points that I feel like is going to elicit some negative comments. And I have two of these bullet points that I think might do that. But, so one of the reasons that I feel like my husband and I are really compatible and make our marriage work is because he and I have always been and will always be into health and fitness. And we find each other very attractive. And the reason that I feel like that's going to, I don't know, rub some people the wrong way is because some people think that if there's a couple and they're both into, you know, living a healthy lifestyle and practicing and wanting to be fit and stuff like that, then they think that that's all you care about and, you know, you're just narcissistic and you're self-consumed and stuff like that. Like you can't possibly do those things and also be a compassionate person or, you know, have a good marriage or be a good parent or, you know, love your spouse for things other than, you know, the way that they look. Looking a certain way. Like I love that my husband loves the way that I look. I love that I love the way my husband looks. I think that my husband is very attractive. But when I met my husband, We were both always into health and fitness. That has never changed. I don't think it's ever going to change. I mean, I'm about to be 49. My husband's about to be 49. We've been together all this time, and we've always remained very health conscious and very fitness conscious. Like, we want to look fit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, some people are like, oh, you know, the only reason you do it is to look a certain way. Why can't it be both? Why can't it be because we want to be healthy and we also want to look good? Like, I feel like some people are just so afraid to be like, yeah, I do want to look good. What is wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting to look, you know, physically fit? You know, my husband has told me on several occasions that my body has not changed at all since the day he's met me. Now, it definitely has, you know, as far as like my skin and, you know, discoloration and even muscle tone. You know, it's a little bit more difficult for me to retain muscle tone, you know, now than it was when I was 24 when I met him. But that feels good to me. That makes me feel like he is attracted to me. He still finds me attractive. And what wife doesn't want her husband to think she's attractive, you know? But I just feel like there are some people who are always looking for a reason to be offended, that they will discredit something that should be a positive thing and try to make it negative by saying, oh, you know, if you're into health and fitness at this age, then you must just be narcissistic and self-absorbed. And, you know, I can promise you something. My husband and I are intelligent people. You know, we know that our looks are going to fade. We know that we're going to continue to age. We know that there's a possibility one of us could get in an accident and become disfigured. I mean, do you think that all of a sudden we'd be like, well, this marriage is over, you know, you don't look the same? I mean, that is so silly and so ridiculous. We've been married for 18 years. Our marriage is based on things that are so much more intricate and so much more substantial than the way each other looks. You know, we have a deep love and a deep admiration for each other. And then on top of it, we're teaching our children that food could either help or hurt you, that fitness, you know, or, you know, staying physically active or not staying physically active can either help or hurt you. And those are important things to teach our children. Our children are always going to benefit from the knowledge that we've given them about health and fitness. Another thing is that, you know, the qualities that you have to possess as a person to remain, you know, health conscious and, you know, to remain physically fit over the span of a lifetime, those qualities are redeeming qualities. You know, it takes self-motivation, it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, dedication, consistency, determination, you know, and those qualities don't usually just stay with your health and your fitness. They usually bleed over into other aspects, you know, of your life. Like marriage, you know, marriage takes all of those things too: sacrifice, dedication, discipline, consistency. Parenting requires those types of qualities. So my husband and I find those qualities to be very attractive in each other. And then on top of it, there's just the added benefit that we like the way each other looks. We look very similar to the way we did when we first met, aside from, you know, obviously the natural aging process. But anyway, in a marriage, it's just something that I'm glad that we share, you know, because it's important to both of us, and it's important, you know, to pass that on to our children also. So now another reason that I feel like our marriage really works is that we really share a lot of the same qualities and a lot of the same energy. And then we also have qualities and energy that kind of like complete each other. I know that sounds so cliche to say, you know, we complete each other, but it's true. And I feel like it's very important, and it plays a big role in the success of our marriage. For instance, I feel like the way that we are a lot alike is that we're both positive people. We, you know, whenever people spend time with us, they're not leaving thinking, oh, wow, Jenny and Rich, they're such victims. You know, the sky's always falling. You know, they don't have anything positive to say, you know, we're pessimistic or something like that. He and I are very, very positive. We're also very polite people. Like when we go out in the world, nobody is beneath us. We are very polite to the checker, to the bank teller, to you know, the waiter or the waitress. We're just very polite. Sometimes I feel like I might even be overly polite just because I'm very uncomfortable with people doing any type of service for me. Just so bizarre. I know it's weird, but it's true. And so I might be like annoyingly appreciative sometimes. We're also both compassionate people. We're also both kind of sensitive, but very strong-willed or strong-headed, maybe a little bit stubborn. I think both of us are kind of that way, especially in the beginning. I remember we did butt heads quite a bit. And then we are both just extremely family-oriented. And I feel like that is so, so important. Our little family is everything to us, but even our extended family. Like, I love my in-laws and he loves my parents, his in-laws, you know? And as a matter of fact, we've had all the in-laws and we've gone on like little, you know, weekend vacations together. That's how much we love spending time together. And I feel like that's really, really important. You know, I can definitely say that whenever we had our rough season, you know, that lasted like 2 or 3 years, like I said, whenever we found out that my son was autistic, our family was so supportive and so, you know, they were counseling us and stuff because we were having a difficult time with me and my husband seeing eye to eye, you know. We were handling it, you know. It's not like we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We were handling it. We just were handling it a little bit differently, and we were arguing over certain things. But anyway, but we had the support of our family. So he and I are just extremely, extremely family oriented. Now, the ways that we kind of complete each other, like yin and yang, is it yin and yang or yin and yang? I think it's yin and yang. I'm not sure. But anyway, one of the ways that, you know, some of the ways that we kind of complete each other's energy and attributes is that my husband is very, very masculine. He possesses a lot of masculine energy. As a matter of fact, my niece was just here last week. She's 18 years old. And I just thought this was so cool because we were just all sitting around talking about, you know, about masculine and feminine energy and stuff like that. And she had said to me, she's like, Uncle Rich is such an alpha male. Like whenever he walks into a room, you know, he's an alpha male, but he's a silent alpha male. And I just thought that that was so neat because that is a perfect description of my husband. He is the strong, silent type. He's definitely an alpha, but he's not the type that comes in beating his chest like, I'm better than everyone, you know, I'm smarter, I'm going to put you in your place, or, you know, he's not like that at all. As a matter of fact, he never ever tries to behave in a way that makes it seem like he's better than anyone else. But he's definitely an alpha. And whenever he speaks, everybody listens. You know, everybody knows that whenever my husband speaks, whatever's going to be coming out of his mouth is going to be well thought out. It's going to be logical. It's going to be intelligent. My husband is so brilliant. It's one of the reasons that I'm so attracted to him, because you can literally, like my stepmom even nicknamed him the walking encyclopedia, because you can literally ask my husband anything. You can ask him about the market, about investments, about politics, about home loans. You can ask him about the deep sea or outer space, anything, and he will have just an endless amount of information for you. And it's mind-blowing a little bit. Just, I don't even know where he keeps all this information, but he's just like, he can even have talks about insignificant stuff. But it's the intellectual stuff that is just so impressive. He just spends all day, every day learning and teaching himself new things. And that is such an attractive quality to me. Now, the way that he and I are different, but I feel like we really kind of complete each other, is that I am a very feminine type of female. However, I am not the quiet type, you know, like him. He's pretty quiet. I am very energetic. You know, I have a lot to say. I don't mind being the center of attention. I don't mind entertaining, you know, everyone. I'm a little bit more, you know, irrational, a little bit more off the cuff. Whenever I have, you know, discussions with other people, like just last week, whenever my sister and, you know, my niece and my mom were here, we were sitting around talking about emotions and feelings and love languages and, you know, personality types and energies and stuff like that. Like, I love psychoanalyzing people. I love analyzing situations. I love trying to figure out why people behave the way that they do, why they say the things that they do, why they react the way that they do. And so that's how we're, different, but it works. But we appreciate those opposite qualities in each other. I don't feel like I could not be with somebody as energetic as I am, I don't think he could be with somebody as quiet as he is. I feel like we just really complement each other in those ways. So we have a lot of things that are similar, and then we also have a lot of things that are different, but it just kind of works out for us. Another reason why I feel like our marriage is really strong is because my husband and I both take parenting very, very seriously. We discipline our children. We don't spank them, but they do have to go to timeout. But we don't just send them to timeout and then, once their time's up, they just get out. We explain to them why they're going to timeout. Sometimes we make them explain to us, why do you think you're in timeout? Because they have to understand so that they don't make those mistakes, in the future. And sometimes they will because they're children, right? But we're consistent with it. And I feel like that is the most important part. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with a degree in psychology and a minor in sociology. And one thing that I know for sure, because I took a lot of child psychology classes, is that consistency is probably the most important thing that you should have when it comes to parenting your children. And especially when it comes to disciplining them and, consequences. They have to have consequences. Otherwise, they're just going to keep repeating the same bad behavior. And when children get away with being disrespectful in their home to you or to each other, they're going to go out into the world, and that's how they're going to be to other people. They're not going to obey other adults. They're not going to, if they scream at you, they're probably going to scream at their teacher. If they're mean to their siblings, they're probably going to go out there and be mean to their friends. And so that's what we try to teach our children. When we're getting after them for something, we don't just say, oh, because I said so. It's more about, you have to understand why I have these expectations of you, why I don't want you to behave like that. And it's because we want them to have a good future. We want other people to want to be around them. We want, when they go out into the world, that they are a good representation of us as parents, and I know somebody's going to take that one sentence that I just said and make it something negative. That's so sad that I just felt that just now. But it's true. Your children are a representation of you. I mean, not always. There are some children that get derailed and, their friends, have more of an influence than you do, but not if you were on top of it from the time they were little. Once they're 10 years old, it's almost too late. You can't instill discipline at that age. They've already gotten away with everything. And so we don't let our children get away with anything. And so they are respectful to us. We have open lines of communication with our children. There is literally nothing that they cannot come and talk to us about. We talk to our children about everything. There's no topic that's off limits. My daughter is 16. We are definitely talking to her about drugs and sex and, drinking and just all the things that come with peer pressure and, being a teenager, so we have those lines of communication open. Our children know that they can come to us about anything. And they're not afraid, even though we discipline, they're not afraid to open up to us about stuff. Even if they think it's going to get them in trouble, which most of the time, of course, we're not going to be like, oh, you're in trouble for even asking me that. I mean, that's so silly. But that is just something that I'm so glad that my husband and I are on the same page about, because parents have to be united when they're raising children. If you have one parent that's really strict and the other one that just lets them get away with everything, it's not gonna work out. It's not gonna work out so well. My husband and I are both, I would say that he's a little bit more strict than I am. I can like sometimes I let them get away with more than he would. And not like talking back or anything like that, but like if they ask for something in the grocery store, can I please have this candy? Can I please have? And I'm just like, no. And then finally I'm like, okay, you know? So I feel like sometimes they know that if they keep asking me, I might let them get away with something. But when it comes to misbehaving or disrespect or something like that, we're both, you know, on the same page and we're both pretty strict. But I still think he's a little bit like, he doesn't tolerate things as long as I might let it go on a little bit longer than it should. So anyway, but we're both really consistent with, you know, with consequences and with discipline. Okay, so this is the last bullet point, and I feel like this is the one that is going to elicit the most negative comments. So I'm just going to kind of brace myself. But one of the reasons that I feel like my husband and I have a really strong marriage and a very healthy marriage is because we are still sexually active, and it's, without going into too much detail, you know, we're not as sexually active as we were in the beginning stages of our relationship or even our marriage. You know, obviously things taper off, you know, as you grow together. You know, obviously you have more responsibility, you know, you have jobs, you have children and stuff like that. So it's not as, you know, we're not as active as we once were, but we still try to keep it a regular part of our marriage. You know, we're not going to let a month go by or months or years go by. You know, some couples will go 6 months or a year, and I just don't feel like that's healthy. Now, before I even go any further with this conversation, I do want to say that all of the information that I'm going to share with you is coming from a woman who feels like she's in a very happy, loving, healthy marriage. So if you are not in a happy, healthy, loving marriage, then just, you know, don't even watch this part, you know, because it might irritate you, or you might become defensive over some of the things that I'm going to say. But that's where I'm coming from. So please don't take this, you know, anything that I say out of context. But I'm not the type of wife who deprives her husband of sex. I'm not sitting around like, no, like I'm not in the mood, or I have a headache, or I had a hard day. You know, I'm not somebody who's always trying to come up with excuses as to, you know, why I don't want to or why I can't. Not to say that you should not be allowed to say no, or that, you know, you should always give in to your husband's advances. I'm not saying that at all. And again, I'm coming from somebody who feels like they're in a very happy, healthy marriage. But to me, I feel like it's a little bit sad, because I feel like men typically have a stronger appetite than women do. I mean, I do have a friend where her appetite is stronger than her husband's. And, but that's not, you know, really, really common. But it's kind of sad, you know, because it would be nice if we both had the same appetite. I can promise you that in the beginning stages of all relationships, you probably do have a similar appetite. You probably are both in the mood at the same time. But as you progress in your relationship and marriage and, you know, responsibilities and stuff, typically it's one person that's in the mood and the other person that's just kind of like giving in, you know? And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Again, I'm not saying that you should always, you know, give in to your husband's advances or anything like that. But I can promise you that most people don't get engaged or, you know, get married thinking that they're going to be in a sexless marriage, you know? And I feel like being intimate with your partner is a very important part of marriage. I feel like it brings you closer together, and it really creates a really strong bond between two people. Now, if you are in a toxic relationship, if you're in a relationship where you have a husband who's like demanding, you know, sex from you every day, which I would never, I would definitely be putting up boundaries all day long. That's just way too much, especially at this age. But if you're in a relationship with somebody who's demanding sex from you every day and who's getting mad at you, you know, if you don't want to, or saying that, you know, oh yeah, well, if you don't, then I guess I'm just gonna have to cheat or something like that. That's obviously toxic. Why would anybody want to be intimate with somebody who's like that? But I see it so often where you have a couple, and like I said, it's typically the man who has the bigger appetite than the woman. And then you have the wife who's trying to always come up with another excuse as to why she can't have sex with her husband. And then you have a man who feels really rejected, by his wife. And then you have a woman who, starts to carry resentment because he's being quieter, because he's feeling rejected. And then you're just in this vicious cycle of like rejection and resentment. And then it just almost, creates a wedge between you. And it's hard to get out of that. And I see that all the time with couples. And the way that I look at it, my husband does so much for me that shows me that he loves me. He takes on all of the burdens and all of the stress of keeping our family financially stable. That is something that I have never had to burden myself with as long as we've been together. I've never had to worry about our finances. I've never had to worry about, our big purchases or, how are we going to pay for our individual health insurance, or how are we going to buy my daughter a car? Those are things that I never even have to worry about or think about because he takes on the burden. And so I literally almost get to live a stress-free life. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have other stresses, obviously, but it's not those type of stresses. But because my husband does those things for me, it makes me feel very loved. It makes me feel cared for and protected. And, he's taking those stresses away from me. So why would I not want to show him that he's loved? Why would I be like, oh, I'm not in the mood, so I'm not going to let you feel loved by me, even though I know that when he goes out to work every day, you think nobody's in the mood to go to work, nobody's in the mood to go out there and provide for their family. What if he used the same excuses, that some women use to always get away from having sex with their husbands? What if my husband was like, I have a headache today, so I'm not going to check the market, even though we have a lot of investments, What if he was like, I just had a really rough day, so I'm not going to go collect money from our tenants that are living in our rental properties. There's just so many things that I'm sure he would rather not be doing, but he does them because he loves me and he loves my children and he wants to provide, a lifestyle for us. So when he comes to me and he wants to be intimate, all I'm feeling is just how grateful I am for everything that he does for me and my family. And why would I not want to show him love that way? For me, it's a small price to pay, not like a price to pay. And before anybody even, because I can literally see the comment right now. I can see somebody leaving me a comment saying, oh, so you're saying that if somebody does something nice for you, that you should return the favor with sex. Of course, I'm not saying that whatsoever. We're talking about a man that I chose to marry. We're talking a man that I chose to have children with, to, be my partner for life. So for me, not depriving my husband of what would make him feel loved is coming from a place of love and gratitude for him. So anyway, I feel like it's just very important to continue to be intimate with your spouse. Again, I'm not saying that every time my husband comes to me, I'm just like, oh, okay, sure. There are times where I'm like, no, I don't want to, and I'll just flat out say like, I don't want to. Usually it's when I'm really, really full or something like that. But I'll usually explain that I'm really full. But for the most part, I generally say yes way more often than I say no. I almost rarely say no. But again, my husband's not coming to me every single day, wanting to be intimate. If he did, that would be irritating. I would definitely have to put up some boundaries. I would definitely have to, put up some limits. But I'm just saying, for me and my husband and our marriage, I think that one of the reasons that we have such a strong marriage is because we are still intimate with each other often, because it really creates a strong bond between us. And it's loving. And I feel like sometimes it just re-energizes the marriage. And if you think about it, well, for me, when I think about it from a place of love and gratitude, it just makes it feel right, So anyway, so that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm feeling really vulnerable right now. Like, I just don't know. I'm worried about, the comment section. I just don't know which way it's gonna go. But let me know if you like this style of video. I love making videos like this. I love whenever I can just speak from my heart and just be very conversational. These are my favorite types of videos to make. But yeah, you guys let me know, because obviously, you know, if you don't like these types of videos, then I'm probably not gonna make them. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend, and hopefully I will see you back here next week.
And I can't be wrong. Take my heart and make it strong. You're simply the best, better than all the rest, better than anyone I've ever met. And I'm stuck on your heart.